Hello, good evening and a very warm welcome to the Hot Seat. In the Hot Seat we have someone quite appropriate for the moment because we have a raging drought. Up to 1 million people are said to be affected, and Sri Lanka is struggling to cope with this latest natural disaster. To discuss some of the aspects of that drought is the chairman of the Ceylon Electricity Board, Mr. Anura Vijaypala. Good evening, Mr. Vijaypala.
Good evening for us.
And thank you very much for being in the hot seat. Drought going on, water levels down in the reservoirs.
Yes.
And we are looking at imminent power cuts, or?
Yeah, power cuts, we can't say imminent power cuts, but things are not rosy. Because this year, after 10 years, we started the year with our reservoirs filled 1/3 of their usual levels. It's our practice to collect water in the last monsoon, the northeast monsoon, which comes from October, November, December, and to start the year with about 90% reservoir levels.
Right.
That is our normal practice. But this year, with no monsoon, almost without any water coming in almost, we are forced to start the year with 1/3 of the reservoirs filled, and they are going down. But we have made alternative arrangements, including energy saving measures, and we hope we can manage without power cuts.
And what are these measures that you've taken?
Some of them are that we have kept our thermal machines, including the Notochol, in healthy conditions, so that now we are running the full plant. We hope we can run it for the first quarter without any trouble, and which will contribute every day almost half of the daily requirement.
Right. So Notochol is running well?
Notochol running well for the time being.
I see.
Yes.
So no problems there?
No, there were problems in December, November, December period, but we have sorted out most of them, and now the
Are
plant
these
is running
problems, or are they operational sort of matters which is consistent with the coal plant?
They are not operational matters consistent with the coal plants. They are particular to this, some of the machine components that have been supplied.
I see.
And also to the configuration of the power plant.
I see. You mean, what do you mean by that? Do you mean that it was wrongly designed, or was it the equipment not really up to scratch?
No, this plant has one of the biggest disadvantages and a mistake in the design, that it doesn't have an auxiliary power supply.
Right.
Auxiliary power supply is something that powers the plant, especially runs the cooling system, in case it doesn't get its own generation.
Right.
So if the 3 machines trips and doesn't generate anymore, still there are machines, auxiliary machines in the system, which will run the cooling pumps. But unfortunately, this plant is designed in a different way. Therefore, whenever there is a total blackout in the system where all 3 machines trips, then the plant doesn't have electricity to run the cooling system.
Right.
Then that create a lot of issues in the thermal system, finally disrupt the operation for about at least 1 week.
I see. So that it's a fundamental, it's a systemic fault in the sense that it's in the design.
That's right, yes.
Would it have cost much more in retrospect to fit this?
Yeah, now we are now considering this. We have a MOU signed with the Chinese government, and we are now writing to the plant supplier. See, now there is a problem this plant, and the Chinese government has given an assurance that they selected the plant supplier. Therefore, we are asking them to correct this issue.
Without cost to you? That
That is what we are intending to.
Right. What if we had to pay for it? What's the cost?
That, of course, we will look at when the time comes.
So under control then?
For the time being, the power supply is under control, and we are taking additional measures, like we calculated and found that there might be about a 60 megawatt of deficit thermal power plant. So we have floated a tender, and as per that we have selected the supplier to contract 60 megawatts of diesel based power plants to be located in 3 places in the country, and the tender has been awarded, and we hope the generation will begin by end of February.
And this is on a temporary basis, is it?
That's for a 6 months period.
Will it make economic sense, financial sense for you as a CEB to have a mobile plant such as these, ready just in case. Can
Exactly.
you afford this just in case luxury?
Yeah, exactly. Now we have to look in two different ways. Now, the very same question we have raised 6 months back. Accordingly, we have already ordered 50 units of 1 megawatt units, CB on property, to be mobilized to any emergency place. It may be a drought, it may be any other emergency like earthquake or whatever the conditions. We are going to have in about 6 months time our own fleet of 50 megawatt 1 megawatt units in several blocks, which can be quickly mobilized to many places and connect. So that's
And in
that's
any
a good
configuration.
Yes, any configuration that has been done.
Right. So that's excellent news. That's good investment, I suppose.
Yes, I think so.
What do you think? How much did you spend on that 50 megawatt?
Yeah, 50 megawatt will cost something like about 3 to 4 billion rupees.
Okay, so around.
But that is that will be really worth, because then we have the flexibility to avoid power cuts.
Right.
On our own.
And to avoid buying emergency power
As well.
from the market.
That's right.
Well, that's excellent news, and so it's all going towards securing our energy security.
Exactly.
Wonderful. On that note, we'll take a short break. Don't go away. After all, this is the Hot Seat. And welcome back to the Hot Seat, and very good evening to you. Joining us in the Hot Seat today is the Chairman of the Ceylon Electricity Board, Mr. Andra Vijayapala. Mr. Vijayapala, so you seem to have done well. You've secured at least 50 megawatts future-wise. When are these standby units coming
They
in?
should be commissioned by May of this year.
All right, okay.
By May.
Wonderful. And talking about the drought, now, what else can you do? Is there anything else you can do?
I think the next important thing is managing our electricity sector. In the supply side, we are managing our power plant. On the demand side, we want customers to assist us in managing the system. So one of the biggest problems that we have under these conditions is use of these old incandescent lamps. That is the old filament type lamps, and later on we are using the CFL as well as LED lamps. But unfortunately, still there are plenty of about 2 million or over incandescent lamps which are burning, and which are creating a load of about 200 megawatts in the evening.
Oh.
And the problem with these incandescent lamps is, when you put 1 kilowatt hour or 1 unit of electricity into this lamp, 96% of that energy is wasted as heat, and about 3 to 4% is converted to light. That is why this lamp is ideal for hatching chicken, you know. In the farms they use this this incandescent lamp for that purpose, and not for as a light source anymore. So I think I plead to the people, now try to change this to CFL or LEDs in whichever way you are able to afford. And on the part of CEB, now we are considering to arrange a program where we are seeing the possibility of importing bulbs on our own and distributing among these low income users and charging them through the bill so that they can pay little by little.
In all respects, excepting charging them, your program sounds like our Gamadda program, because we do that. But of course we don't charge people, we give it. But that's a good initiative. Do you think it will work? Do you think you'll be able to do that?
It should work, and if it rightly fit into the system, we should be able to reduce, in our calculations, 200 megawatts, or at least about 150 megawatts, which is a huge relief to our system.
Do we have manufacturers locally of this?
Yeah, we are discussing of buying this in a bulk purchase, where that normally market price is something like 500 rupees per LED lamp, and we are discussing with the Indian government. They are buying a lot of LED bulbs in one bunch in India. We are going to use the same facility if possible, where you can buy a lamp probably much cheaper than that, and then pass the benefit to the people.
Good, good. And why is the CEB engineers, why are they so against this this proposal or the proposed LNG plant in Hambantota?
You know that LNG power plants to be executed in this country, there is a laid down procedure in the Sri Lanka Electricity Act. That is, any plant, whether it is government to government, whether it is by other means to be implemented, first of all it should be in our 20-year long-term generation expansion plan.
Right.
And we don't have a 500 megawatt or in that scale power plant in Hambantota, unfortunately.
Right.
Due to the simple reason, we have our loads in Colombo, in and around Colombo. Therefore, we have localized our power plants in and around Colombo if it is based on LNG. Then the question might come, then why did you want to put up a 500 megawatt power plant, the Sampur power plant in Trincomalee? It's as far as distance away as Hambantota. You know that why we went to Sampur for a coal power plant is the availability of a port where you can unload coal throughout the year.
I see.
That is the reason. Otherwise, we want the power plants in and around Colombo where our main loads are. Otherwise, when you produce elsewhere and bring it, you lose about 10% on the way.
Right.
10% of the energy away, we don't want to do it.
Good. So that's the only reason.
That's the only reason, yes.
Not that Hambantota is.
Not the Hambantota. We will have more power plants in our coming, the new long-term generation expansion plan. That is an optimized plan our engineers are preparing. I don't know exact details, but I believe most of the new power plants also will be close to the load centers, not far from the load centers.
So the future is looking good.
Future, we are trying to make it good and comfortable for the people and for the CEB as well.
Indeed. The other point, of course, we'd like to bring to your to discuss is what about the solar energy? You know, why can't all these houses have solar?
Now, we have given now permission for every household of the country opportunity to have their own solar system on the rooftops. And earlier it was only a net metering system where you can install your solar power system on your rooftop, and if you produce more, you can bank it with CEB and take it out later, next month, next week, even next year. So there was no financial transaction.
Right.
So you produce, you use. If you have an excess, you bank with us. If you have a deficit, you pay for the deficit. That was the net metering. And now we have come out with two more schemes, and one of them is you every month you produce, you use, and if there is excess, we pay you 22 rupees every unit for the first 7 years, and balance 13 years 15 rupees and 50 cents.
That's astonishing, because that's a lot of money.
Yes. So we are going to encourage solar development. And in a third scheme, where if you are a low consumer, it might not be useful for you to produce your own solar power and use it, because solar anyway cost about 15-20 rupees. And your charge from the CEB is much less because you are in the subsidized groups. So for them we have offered a scheme where they can continue to enjoy cheap electricity from CEB because they are low users. And at the same time, every unit they produce from their rooftop system can be sold to CEB again at the same prices, 22 rupees for the first 7 years, 15.50 for the next 13 years.
So in short, they can make a little profit out of this.
They can make a little profit, and this was devised, of course, by this is a proposal by Honorable Ranjit Simbalapiti, our minister, and the deputy minister, and they want to make the poorer segment to involve in this power generation, and among many other things, to have an income source as well for their households.
Well, every little helps, of course.
Yes.
But how easy is it in practice? Have you issued enough notices to your staff and sent them on training and so on?
Yes. So every area engineer's office is equipped with all these leaflets, information, and they are geared up for this. And many people are on the go. I understand these solar companies who are providing these services are geared up for this, and there are loan schemes and others, and luckily in the last budget, government also offered concessionary loan schemes for this purpose up to 150,000 or something. so that people can obtain that also under concessionary interest rates.
Good. On that note, we'll take a short break. Don't go away for too long. After all, this is the Hot Seat. Hello, good evening and welcome back to the Hot Seat. In the Hot Seat today is Mr. Anura Vijayapala, the chairman of the Ceylon Electricity Board. Now, Mr. Vijayapala, we've asked you several questions and so on, and you've been kind enough to throw some light on it. And but now we must ask you the question. It's obviously severe conditions right now, but anyway, even if it was not severe conditions, how can the public help the CEB to deliver or anything? What can the public do?
I think we expect from the public several helps. And on the first place, if you remember, His Excellency the President made an appeal, that is to switch off these big signboards which are coming up in the evenings and nights, which are burdening us with our peak period. And I hope that these owners of these signboards will take up, not for a long time, maybe for the next 6 months, assist us by doing that. And from the household consumers, who happen to be 90% of our customer base. We have about little over 6 million customers, and 90% of them are households. And we kindly request them move away from our peak period conveniently. What I mean is, we don't ask you to switch off half of your lamps in the house and be in the dark, but you can conveniently avoid using some of the equipment during peak period, peak demand period, which happens from 6:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m.
Like what?
You don't have to iron during that period. Ironing at any other time will be equally good.
Okay.
So move away your ironing from that period
another slot.
To another slot, any slot anywhere.
Right.
And also your washing machine need not to wash during that time. Maybe you can move away a little from that and run it at some other time, and think of other equipment as well. And also, as he always says, use electricity but don't waste electricity.
Tell me, as a professional man, is there any sense, in turning your fridge off during the night, because nobody ever goes to open it in the night unless you're sneaking in for a snack? But apart from that, ordinarily, nobody tends to open a fridge door in the night. So does it make sense to switch it off? Can you save power?
Yeah. For us now, you don't have to intervene with that.
Right.
All these new fridges are equipped for that. So they will automatically switch off and make that saving for you. So we don't want to intervene with it unless it's a very old fridge. There are old fridges, but unfortunately I will not make a request that you change the fridge, because it's a pretty expensive business.
Indeed it is.
But I would say, I changed my fridge, which was about 20 years old, and which was in old technology, and I replaced with the new fridge, and I have reduced my electricity by a substantial amount, because the new fridges are very efficient and they are working on technologies like inverter technologies, and they save a lot of electricity, good for you and good for us.
And good for the bank balance.
Yes, of course, in the long run, because the fridge is last 20 years and it will save your electricity bill for
over
20 years.
Yes. So there you are. The newer fridges have the built-in capacity to...
Yes. Yeah. For us now, I want to put a point here, that is, that now in Sri Lanka we have a star labeling system for CFL lamps, for fridges. I hope that is for the fridges also, now it's in execution, and also for fans and some other equipment like televisions. So in the label there should be a number of stars, 6, 7 stars. More the number of stars, more efficient is the equipment. They are tested by standard institutions and they allocate the number of stars. We call it star labeling. So if you are buying an equipment, ask for what is the star labeling of this equipment.
That's the trick.
That's a trick, yes.
There you are. You heard it right from the chairman of the CEB himself on the hot seat. Well, it's been interesting talking to you, and we wish you all the very best as you're going along. And do pop by again and and tell us how you're getting on with your temporary power, the standby units owned by the CEB and so on. Perhaps you might want to come back in how long, shall we say? 2 months, 3 months?
Okay, thank you for the offer, yes.
All right, thank you very much. Honorable Jayapala, Chairman of the Ceylon Electricity Board. Thank you, and thank you for watching. We'll be back, same time, same place next week. Take care. Good night.